Admiral Vexamoria stood at the bridge view screen, mandibles clicking in agitation as she surveyed the primitive human vessel before her. It was laughably small compared to the hegemony's dreadnought, a mere speck against the backdrop of stars. "Open. Communications," she commanded. The human captain appeared on screen, an unimpressive creature with soft features and no exoskeleton to speak of. Commander Cale Donovan wore what the hegemony intelligence described as a determined expression, though Vexamoria found all human faces equally incomprehensible. "This is your final warning," Vexamoria announced, her translator converting her clicks and hisses into human standard. "Earth's resistance ends now. Your colony on Proxima Centauri has fallen. Your outposts at Barnard's Star have been reduced to ash. Surrender your homeworld or face extinction." Donovan's response was unexpected. He smiled. "Admiral, I think there's been a misunderstanding. Those weren't colonies. Those were observation posts." Vexamoria's antennae twitched in confusion. "Explain." "For nearly a century, we've been sending out small teams to study potential threats. You've managed to destroy a few dozen researchers and their equipment. Congratulations." The Admiral's compound eyes narrowed. "Your deception is futile. Our scans show your species possesses minimal weapons technology. You have no armada hiding behind your moon." "That's correct," Donovan said calmly. "We don't." Something in his tone sent a chill through Vexamoria's thorax. Before she could respond, her tactical officer called out, "Admiral, we're detecting quantum fluctuations from the human ship." The human vessel began to glow with an impossible energy signature. The readings defied everything the hegemony understood about physics. "What you've encountered so far," Donovan continued, "are what we call scouts. Humans who chose to live at the frontier, studying the universe. What's coming now is our actual response team." The space behind the human ship began to distort. Not a conventional wormhole or hyperjump signature, something entirely different. "Impossible," whispered Vexamoria, as massive ships began emerging from what appeared to be space-time itself. They weren't constructed of conventional materials, but seemed to be composed of condensed energy and exotic matter. "You see, Admiral," Donovan's voice remained eerily calm, "what you've been fighting until now was just our civilian science division. The true army hasn't even shown up yet." As the first of the energy vessels moved into formation, Vexamoria realized with dawning horror that the hegemony had made a terrible miscalculation. The Galactic Hegemony Council. Chamber erupted into chaos as holographic projections showed the human response force destroying Vexamoria's fleet. Grand Overseer Rulax pounded his crystalline appendage against the ancient table. "Silence!" he demanded. "How did our intelligence fail so catastrophically?" Luminex, the hegemony's chief xenopsychologist, stepped forward. Her bioluminescent skin pulsed anxiously. "We misunderstood their evolutionary psychology, Overseer. Humans evolved as prey animals that became apex predators through intelligence rather than physical strength. They've maintained a prey species, paranoia combined with a predator's aggressive problem-solving." "Explain the technology," Rulax demanded. "Nothing in our surveillance indicated such capabilities." Science Director Kuvara's many eyes blinked in sequence. "The humans appear to have mastered dimensional engineering. They aren't traveling through space. They're manipulating it. What we're seeing isn't conventional propulsion, but localized, reality modification." On the monitors, another hegemony dreadnought imploded, crushed by what appeared to be a localized gravity well tens of thousands of times stronger than should be possible to generate. Ambassador Peldoro, who had spent time studying Earth culture before diplomatic relations collapsed, spoke softly. "There is a concept in human military doctrine called strategic deception. They deliberately appeared weak to encourage our aggression." As the council debated, an incoming transmission alert flashed. A human appeared, not Commander Donovan, but an older female with silver hair and ceremonial markings on her uniform. I am Admiral Lyra Blackwood of the Earth Defense Force. Your unprovoked attacks on our observation outposts constitute an act of war against humanity. However, we are prepared to accept your immediate and unconditional surrender. Rulax bristled. The hegemony has ruled this sector for 10,000 cycles. We do not surrender to primitives. Admiral Blackwood's expression remained neutral. Your assumption of our primitive status was your first mistake. Your refusal to acknowledge reality will be your last. We've analyzed your fleet's capabilities and found them quaint. As if to punctuate her statement, the main hegemony defense station around their homeworld suddenly went dark. That was a demonstration, Blackwood continued. We've neutralized your primary defensive platform without firing a single conventional weapon. We simply adjusted the quantum probability field surrounding it. Rulax's exoskeleton paled. What do you want? Withdrawal from all human territories. Reparations. For the lives lost and your weapons technology placed under interspecies oversight. And if we refuse? Admiral Blackwood's voice remained even. Then you'll learn why. Throughout our history, humans have been far more frightening when organized than when we're scattered. The transmission ended, leaving the Council in stunned silence. Lieutenant Aurea Nivedita moved silently through the corridors of the hegemony's most secure research facility. Active camouflage rendered her nearly invisible, while quantum entanglement communicators kept her connected to the Earth force without detectable signals. 3 weeks had passed since Admiral Blackwood's ultimatum, and the hegemony had officially agreed to terms while secretly preparing a counterattack. Human intelligence had identified this facility as the center of their weapons development program. Northeast corridor clear, Aurea subvocalized, approaching the main laboratory. Confirmed, came the response from Captain Einar Solheim aboard the EDF Eclipse. Biosignature scans show 5 hegemony researchers inside, security systems isolated. Aurea approached the laboratory door, applying a molecular disruptor that temporarily created a passage through the solid metal without triggering alarms. She slipped inside. The hegemony scientists were gathered around a swirling vortex contained in an energy field, a prototype dimensional weapon based on stolen human research. If completed, it could potentially neutralize humanity's technological advantage. Excuse me, Aurea announced, deactivating her camouflage. I believe you have something that doesn't belong to you. The scientists reacted with alarm, reaching for security controls that no longer responded. Your communications are offline, she explained calmly, and your weapon prototype is fundamentally flawed. You've misunderstood our dimensional calculus. The lead researcher, a tall insectoid with sophisticated augmentations, clicked angrily. Impossible! We extracted this technology from your research vessel. Yes, from the recreational simulation deck, Aurea replied with a small smile. What you've built is based on an educational game for human children learning basic dimensional theory. The actual equations would have fried your quantum processors. As if to prove her point, the prototype began to destabilize, its containment field flickering. That shouldn't happen for another 3 days, the scientist protested, mandibles twitching in panic. I accelerated the process, Aurea explained, tapping a small device on her wrist. Don't worry, I've contained the reaction to prevent catastrophic failure. We're not monsters. The prototype collapsed in on itself with a soft implosion, leaving nothing but a scorch mark. The Hegemony Council assured us they were complying with the peace terms, Aurea said, her voice hardening. This facility violates 17 separate provisions. We have dominated this galaxy for millennia, hissed the lead scientist. We will not be subjugated by mammals who only recently discovered space travel, Aurea sighed. That's your fundamental misunderstanding. Humans don't want to subjugate you. We just want you to stop attacking us, and perhaps in time, to work together. She gestured to the failed prototype. For instance, your bioneural computing architecture is fascinating. Combined with our dimensional mathematics, we could revolutionize interstellar travel. The scientist stared at her in confusion. You would share technology with us? After our attack? That's what humans do, Aurea replied. We fight fiercely, but we prefer collaboration when possible. Now, shall we discuss terms that don't involve either of our species attempting to deceive the other? Grand Overseer Rulax faced the assembled representatives of 37 species that comprised the hegemony's ruling council. His exoskeleton had dulled from its once brilliant azure to a pale blue, a physical manifestation of his diminished status. The treaty has been finalized, he announced, his voice amplified throughout the ancient chamber. The Human Alliance has accepted our surrender with surprisingly reasonable terms. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. Ambassador Peldoro spoke first. Reasonable? They've dismantled our military supremacy. They've required us to dismantle weapons of mass destruction. Rulax corrected. Our defensive capabilities remain intact, and they've offered technology exchanges that will benefit all hegemony worlds. Science Director Kuvara projected a holographic model of the proposed human dimensional drive. Their engineers have already begun collaborating with ours. This technology will reduce interstellar travel time by 87%. Why would they share such advantages? Demanded Warlord Krex, his crimson scales bristling. They could have conquered us completely. A new voice answered from the entrance to the chamber. Because conquest isn't our objective. The assembly turned to see a human female entering, not in military uniform, but in formal diplomatic attire. Ambassador Mara Kaito walked calmly to the center of the chamber, flanked by a single aide carrying a data crystal. Humanity has studied your history, she said. The hegemony began as a mutual defense pact between the Rukari and Vistani 3,000 years ago. Only later did it become an instrument of conquest. Rulax's antennae twitched in surprise. Few outside the council knew this historical detail. We have no interest in ruling others, Ambassador Kaito continued. Earth was never united under a single government until the dimensional breakthrough 60 years ago created abundance for all. We've learned that cooperation yields better results than coercion, she gestured, and her aide activated the data crystal, projecting a star map showing hundreds of systems. These are worlds where environmental collapse is imminent under current hegemony extraction policies. We're offering restoration technology and sustainable alternatives. Warlord Krex rose to his full height. And what do humans want in return? No species acts without self-interest. Ambassador Kaito nodded. You're right. We want security, knowledge exchange, and to prevent the suffering of sentient beings, including yours. Self-interest and mutual benefit aren't mutually exclusive. She turned to face Rulax directly. Your intelligence services believed you were facing a primitive species with limited military capability. In reality, you encountered a united humanity that had solved its internal conflicts and redirected its innovative capacity toward understanding the universe. What happens now? Rulax asked quietly. Now, Ambassador Kaito replied, we rebuild, together. The treaty includes provisions for a joint defense force against the threats lurking beyond known space, threats both our civilizations have detected but neither has confronted. The chamber fell silent as the implications settled over. The assembly. 5 years after the failed invasion of Earth, the observation deck of the joint human hegemony vessel Concordia offered a spectacular view of the dimensional anchor being constructed near Barnard's Star. Once operational, it would create a stable network allowing instantaneous travel between major systems. Fleet Commander Marek Okafor stood beside former Admiral Vex Moria, now serving as the hegemony's chief liaison to the joint fleet. Their relationship had evolved from captor and prisoner to reluctant colleagues and finally to something approaching friendship. "Did you know this would happen?" Vex Moria asked, her translator perfectly conveying her tone of wry curiosity. "When your people first appeared with technology we couldn't comprehend, did you envision this outcome?" Marek considered the question carefully. "Not specifically. But our history taught us that military victory without cultural understanding creates only temporary advantages. The human strategy was always to demonstrate overwhelming capability while offering peaceful alternatives. Below them, on the main engineering deck, human and hegemony specialists worked side by side, their different physiologies complementing each other. What had once been unthinkable was now commonplace. "My ancestors would be horrified," Vex Moria admitted. "The hegemony built its identity on domination, not collaboration. And mine built theirs on survival," Marek replied. "Both our species have had to evolve beyond our origins." Their conversation was interrupted by an urgent alert from the Concordia's sensors. A massive energy signature had appeared at the edge of the system, unlike anything in either human or hegemony records. "Dimensional distortion," reported Chief Science Officer Elena Nassar. "Pattern suggests deliberate technology, not natural phenomenon." As they watched, a massive object emerged from what appeared to be a tear in space-time itself. An enormous vessel of unknown configuration. Its surface shifted and flowed like liquid metal, defying conventional materials science. "The Voidborn," whispered Vex Moria. "We thought they were just legends." Marek turned to her sharply. "You know what this is?" Ancient hegemony texts speak of entities from beyond conventional space, beings that consumed entire civilizations. We dismissed them as myths until our deep space probes began disappearing 3 decades ago. The unknown vessel emitted a signal, not radio or light, but modulated gravitational waves that the Concordia's advanced sensors translated into an unmistakable message. "Surrender or be harvested." Marek and Vex Moria exchanged glances. "Open. A channel to Earth Defense Command and Hegemony High Council," Marek ordered. "Priority Alpha." As the communications officer complied, Vex Moria's mandibles clicked in what Marek had learned was her equivalent of a smile. "You know," she said quietly, 5 years ago, I thought humans were the most terrifying force in the galaxy. I was wrong." "About humans being terrifying?" Marek asked. "No," Vex Moria replied. "About being wrong to fear you. Some things should be feared and fought against together." As the Joint Defense Fleet began to mobilize throughout human and hegemony space, Marek reflected on the irony. The failed invasion of Earth had prevented the extinction of both civilizations by forcing them to overcome their differences before a greater threat emerged. "Send response to the unknown vessel," Marek commanded. Message reads, "This space is protected by the combined fleet of humanity and the galactic hegemony. Your threats are acknowledged. Your intentions are rejected. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences of your aggression." The Void-born ship pulsed with energy, clearly preparing an attack. "You know," Vex Moria remarked as the Concordia's weapon systems came online. "They have no idea what they're facing." Marek nodded. "They're about to learn the same lesson the hegemony did. Humanity is dangerous when threatened, but humans and their allies together? That's when the true army shows up."